Welcome to this week's episode of Livewire TV on this awesome Jubilee Bank holiday. Now, for our US and customers and viewers that are not watching in the UK right now, Jubilee is basically the Queen has been reigning here for 70 awesome years. So if you're new here, welcome. Super excited that you have chosen to join us today. Livewire TV is the place where we talk all about inspiring conversations that's going to really ignite not only your business growth, but also your mindset growth as well. I always feel like we can't really have one without the other. You can't have mindset growth without business growth. You can't have business growth without mindset growth. Anyway, I'm your host, Rohini, and Livewire TV is brought to you by Livewire Media, where we do corporate videography and video marketing. Now, each week I bring you guys an incredible guest, somebody who really knows their stuff inside out, at the pinnacle of their game, and just wants to serve people too. So, Matt, welcome to this week's episode. I'm super excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite and having me here. I'm looking forward to sharing and helping people, hopefully.
So Matt is literally the LinkedIn expert, but beyond that, he's really like qualified, experienced, whatever you want to call it. He knows his stuff when it comes to not only scaling up businesses, but also removing limiting beliefs, helping them to get to that next level, whatever that be for them. And he works with a variety of businesses too. So it's not like he's exclusive just to one. He's a speaker, he's a trainer, literally like he knows everything.
Not quite everything. I'm always learning, always learning. That's the aim.
Yeah, and I think if you're not always learning, then effectively you're kind of dying in some ways.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So if you're in business and you don't know this yet, but LinkedIn is an absolute goldmine. It really, really is. There's so much value on LinkedIn, and yet so many people get it wrong. Now, there's lots of different strategies to get LinkedIn right. There's lots of different strategies to get clients on LinkedIn, raise your brand profile, and ultimately reach your business goals using just LinkedIn. Yeah. However, there is a very, very wrong ways of doing it too.
There are so many.
What Matt is going to be talking with us today about how to really utilize the power of LinkedIn, hopefully not make it time consuming for you as well, and so that you can scale up your business. So, Matt, how long have you been doing this for?
So I've been on LinkedIn since 2007 and using it within corporates and sales teams ever since. So it's been a while.
Wow, a long time then.
It has, but only when the pandemic hit did I start doing it publicly. Because prior to that, I was using it within the kind of emergency services space and the security space, and telephony and various other industries where I helped sales teams internally with how to go out and go to market to find their target audience using LinkedIn strategically, and how to build relationships. So, that was always done internally, kind of undercover under company brand. And then when the pandemic hit, so many businesses came to me and went, Mac, we know what you do with LinkedIn. Is there any chance you can show us how to do this and help other businesses? So I took 3 months out to help about 70 businesses from all different walks of life go through my methodology so that they could learn how to go and get business when things were at the toughest it had ever been in our, the world that we know as it currently is. And that's where the LinkedIn expert label came from, because all my clients just went, hey, Mac, you actually need to go and put a label on it. And I was like, no. And they said, well, you know so much and you do so much. And I finally had my business coach nail me down and say, if you don't, take the label by 12 today, I'm going to go and register the domain for myself. So I got the LinkedIn expert. So, so there it is in a very short version.
That is a very fast way to incentivize somebody.
It is indeed. But you know what? It changed a lot after that, because it's one of the big mistakes people make on LinkedIn is they, a lot of us wear many hats, and especially because of the pandemic, some people will have 2 or 3 roles that they're doing, just trying to get by. Or, they're studying and they're working, and, there's people always looking forward, or at least those people that are really, career orientated, want to, look at that progress ahead of time. So sometimes it can be quite difficult to look at somebody's LinkedIn profile and go, well, what is it that they actually do? And even myself, I was at a stage where I own a security company, so that was on my profile, and it still is. But it was on my banner. Then it was my LinkedIn stuff was on there. My speaking stuff was on there. There's so much, as you mentioned. There's so many things that I'm involved in, but it did confuse my audience. So, that personal experience, that's one of the things that I teach people is how do you focus and niche down on one thing and get that right before you move on to the next. Yes, you can wear multiple hats, but you need to make sure you've got a strategy to make sure that you don't confuse your audience. And that is so important.
And how do you do that then? Because I know people who run multiple businesses, and I guess there is some element of a lot of personal branding involved in it as well. Then how do you promote yourself, your business, your career, multiple things at the same time without overwhelming or confusing or even alienating your viewer?
So this is something where I suggest having a clear strategy and what your messaging is, and having clarity on what you're going to be putting out there. Because unfortunately, what most people do is they'll go day to day, and they kind of feel, today, okay, I need to post about this business. So, I go and post that. And then tomorrow they feel, I need to post about that. And what tends to happen is because there's no consistency, it confuses everybody. So consistency is really one of those real big keys on LinkedIn. So, if you're going to wear a hat for one business, talk about that on a specific day where your audience knows if they show up on that day, they're going to get that content. Whereas if they show up on that day and then they get different content, they're just going to go away. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And speaking of content, how do you determine what is going to be good content? Because you can do a bad thing consistently.
Absolutely. So content, a lot of people get kind of caught up and not quite sure. And that's why you've got 90% of people. There's a concept called 1990 that Chris Reed, the only CEO with a mohawk, if you've ever heard of him, go and look him up on LinkedIn. He's brilliant. But he shared that with me a few years ago, and effectively it works across social media where only 1% of people, between 1 and 2% of people, are actually sharing content. So when you think about that, that's 98% of people that aren't posting content, and that's because of so many different fears. One, what do I post? When do I post? How do I post? Then there's, I don't want to post in case my boss sees me, or I don't want to post in case people think I'm, ridicule me or make fun of me. So there's so many different reasons why people don't post. And then you have between 2 and 10% of people that actually engage. So those are people that like, comment, and share your posts. So when it comes to content, the key thing is being, authenticity is a real big thing. But one of the things, if I can go take a few steps back just to give you some perspective, and hopefully this will help everybody with LinkedIn, is I look at the road to success on LinkedIn is 3 pillars, as it were. The one is your profile, making sure that when people land on your profile, it says, they work with people like me. So, making sure that you've got all those keywords in there, that you've got those personal experiences in there, you've got those results in there, whether it be your about section, your headline, your experience section. The next part is your content strategy, putting out stuff that shows that you're an authority in your space. You know what you're talking about. So the easiest bit of content that I can ever, tell people is, if you look at your FAQs, look at every business has their frequently asked questions, and 80% of those questions are going to serve the majority of your audience. So if you can go and just speak about one of those at a time, you're going to be educating your clients and your audience about the problems you solve. And the third one,
when you get on videos and you talk about those frequently asked questions, I get all the time, what kind of content should I be posting, or how do I get camera confident? It actually pre-qualifies the client before they even get on the phone to you, and it
absolutely
so many time wasters. It's amazing.
But that's such a good point, because a lot of people sit there and they get the FOMO, you know, they want to include everybody, but then they get all these wasted inquiries and conversations. And so, you know, if you could put your content out there that it auto filters and people go, they work with people like me, easy, step forward, or okay, they're not for me. That does a job for you. But a lot of people, I mean, Rohini, that's such a important point for people to take on board. And then for me, the last part is your connection, or your, whether it be outbound or inbound strategy, is how do you go about that? So when it comes to content, what I find is people tend to make the following mistakes. So as an example, there are a lot of people that are going out there and they're reaching out to connect with people, and they go, hey, you know, I'd like to add you to my network, or I'd like to add you to my field of expertise, or we're in the same group. And they're the common templates that tend to come out, and they do the connect and then they pitch you. Now the problem being is, firstly, a lot of them haven't set up their profile to be in line with what they're talking to you about. So as an example, we had a client recently that we were working with, and she wears multiple hats, but she was trying to raise sales leads for an organization when she herself had a totally different job as well. So when people were going on to, getting the message from her on LinkedIn, they then went onto her profile, and her profile started talking about like the fashion industry. And they were like, hold on, I thought you were trying to sell, and immediately the client was confused, the potential prospect. And that confusion brings in hesitation, and therefore they don't do anything. So her messaging was great, but the confusion was stopping them from proceeding. So her conversion rate was like next to nothing. And then the other part is the content side, because then they go onto your profile to go and have a look at, well, what content are you putting out there? Are you an expert at what you're talking about? Do we want to work with somebody like you? And the content was, posting things like, oh, well, here's a pretty little cat, playing with a fur ball. It was like, okay, well, that's nice. You put out funny stuff on LinkedIn, but I don't know how that serves me or what problems you can solve for me. So I don't know if you're an expert in the field. So
do you know what I call those kind of posts? Engagement bait.
Yeah, absolutely. Bait posts are, and there's so many people that do those. And it's okay to do those. If you have a day that you just want to do something funny and you want to bring stuff in and start conversations, that's okay. But make sure that you also have content that people can go and look at your posts and go, okay, they're bringing value as well, but they also have a bit of a sense of humor. That's great. But when it's all of your posts are, these GIFs or these smiley faces, and it's like, okay, I'm not quite sure what the purpose is and what you're doing here. So for me, I talk about sanity over vanity, because a lot of people going for the numbers, as you know, with those bait posts where they literally just want the attention, they want the engagement, they want people to like and say, "Oh, lovely," or "That's nice," and they get thousands of views, but then that's it.
Nothing converts. Yeah, nothing converts.
So, I did a post recently where I didn't want it to go viral. I didn't want to go too many. I was just looking, because I'm promoting a new course that I was working on. So I was looking for just kind of see if there was an interest in what I was going to be running. And I did one post, and we got 40 odd leads from it. And that was just one little poll that I did that, we had a few hundred people vote, and it wasn't anything major, but if it was one of those posts like, did you shave today? Clearly I haven't. It would have been a totally different result.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the question on a lot of people's minds right now, because this is a big part of getting leads through social media, is building rapport with people. Because you tell most people to build rapport and build relationships with people online.
Yeah.
You may as well tell them to build an engine, because they don't know what they're doing. So what are the easiest ways that people can build rapport online and develop relationships that can then eventually lead to business?
So I love the way you put that there, eventually lead to business, because most people are coming from a place of desperation where they are trying to convert leads immediately. So there's no patience in it. And I see that all the time, and it's called the connect and pitch, where or spray and pray approach, where they're just doing the numbers. And the problem with that is people, when it comes to building relationships, there's one real vital percentage that you need to understand. At any given time, you've only got between 1% and 3% of your network that are in a position to buy. So they may love your product, they may want to use your product, but they may not just be it might not be the right timing, they might not have the budget. There are multiple reasons why not. So if you could cultivate those relationships so that you become the only person they think of in the field that you're in as the expert, so that when they do need you, then you're the go-to person. But unfortunately, what most people do is they connect, ask the question, do you want to do business? No, move on. So they play the numbers game, which is great, but it's a finite project, as it were, or campaign, because ultimately, if you've got 1,000 people in your network and you burn 1,950 of them just so that you can get to 50 leads, and then you want to go back to the other leads later on, you've got no chance at all. But if you play the numbers game with the relationship side of things, one of the big problems people have with LinkedIn on the relationship side of things is they forget that it's AI driven as well. So when I speak about the AI side of things, LinkedIn are trying to help you build relationships with the people that you engage with the most. Now, if I go to Rohini and I just reach out and I say, hey, let's connect, and you accept, and that's where we leave it, then the AI goes, okay, well, there was no conversation past this point, so we're not going to show Rohini and Max feed and vice versa, because there hasn't been a relationship. However,
is that what literally happens from a technical point of view? Why
correct.
not?
So you're looking at 3 touch points that you need to make sure that you have once you connect. So for me, as an example, if I connect with somebody, the first thing I do is I would send them a message and say, thank you for connecting. And then I'd add something personal in there. I'd add a question so that I learn a little bit more about them. I would then go and visit their profile. I might even go onto their posts and see if they do post. And if they do, I would go and engage with that. So you're looking at 3 touch points. And those 3 touch points are basically, a DM, a profile visit, and an engagement with a post. Now, considering that 90% of people don't post, you can still go on their profile and see what their activity is. And you can see what kind of things do they engage with. So you can see what they comment, what they like, and therefore go in and comment and like similar posts so that you show up. So one of the biggest ways of building these relationships, and Rohini, I don't know if people are always looking for new leads, yes?
Yeah.
But many people forget about the leads they already had, the clients they've already got. And when we look at all businesses, most people say their business comes from referrals. But referrals only come if you look after those clients. So one of the big things on LinkedIn, and this is such a simple thing for anybody to go out and do today and get business in the next week or 2, is make sure that you are connected to every single one of your existing clients or past clients. Go and engage with their posts just so that you are on the forefront of their mind. Because guess what? Every time you engage with their post, their audience is going to see you engage with their posts, and your picture, your headline, and your name is going to show up. And the more you do that, eventually, when somebody needs your services, they will associate you with somebody that is of low risk to contact, because you are already somebody who works with one of the people they know. And that's the biggest fear people have, is to work with somebody where something might go wrong. So they want to pick somebody they can trust. But if you can continuously have regular conversations where you add value to your clients' posts and content, you are going to show up as that person that automatically just has this rapport that people don't understand. They just like you because you're showing up and adding value on a consistent basis. And it's much easier for your clients' networks to then reach out to you, because your client might not be sitting there thinking about you and your business. But when you comment on their post, all of a sudden somebody in their network who needs your services at that point of time, you're primed to be the person that they would contact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. But guys, if you have any questions for Matt, drop them in the comment section below. Even if you're watching on the replay, let us know. comment with your thoughts, because Mac and I will be following up with you guys. LinkedIn, it can be an absolute minefield. So Mac is here to support you guys and answer all of your questions. Mac, where can people connect with you? Obviously, you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so obviously on LinkedIn, if you go onto my profile on or search the LinkedIn expert, you will find multiple places you can link up with me. But on LinkedIn, Mac Laubscher, you'll find me straight away. And if you go onto my banner right now, you'll see some of the latest things I'm working on. I'm running some 12-week courses, which are one-on-one, which I take you through literally step by step, like the micro bits about LinkedIn to make you go from 0 to hero within 12 weeks. But I only take on 15 people every 12 to 14 weeks. And then I have live Q&A sessions where anybody can jump in for a free session as well. So DM me, get hold of me on any platform, and happy to introduce you to my community. Come for a free session. Come and learn something about LinkedIn.
Awesome. Definitely connect with Matt, guys, because honestly, he shares a ton of value and is really, really well connected as well. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. It's been really, really insightful, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it too. And I love your energy.
Thank you so much, Rohini. And I look forward to speaking to you much more, because I want to see how I can help your community be able to access all this amazing stuff that you're doing, because you're pouring your heart out to bring some amazing content. We want to make sure that as many people get access to that as possible.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys, join us next Thursday, 7 p.m. GMT time for another really inspiring conversation. See you there. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.